Hey, here's a note. I know the AEW ratings have been going down lately. This may be a contributory factor. Apparently, ladies and gentlemen, no more will we have one of our favorite wrestlers to talk about fondly and analyze his performances. We haven't seen him in a while anyway, but now it's official. Jelly Nutella is finished in AEW. He will not be, he's done an interview explaining why he will not be re-signing with AEW. And that interview immediately followed my statement where I announced that I would under no circumstances, no matter what, accept Donald Trump's entire fortune that he's offering to give me if I'll stop talking about him. So no, he's I'm not going to re-sign again. AEW botches on Twitter had a great compilation of Jelly stumbling and falling and failing and fumbling, and it was a nice little send-off for him. Apparently, the first round of Mud Show signees are going back to the mud. Apparently, this also, he had heat for breaking Eddie Kingston's face and keeping him off TV that time when they just started an angle with him. And apparently that wasn't the first time he'd landed on somebody or stumbled and fell on him or whatever. So yeah, with the constant botching and falling and hurting and things, they finally decided, maybe we just shouldn't let him do this anymore.
Yeah, for everyone that jumped on me, the few little Jelly Nutella supporters out there, how could you say he's dangerous or he hurts people when I said it a few years ago?
Because he's dangerous and he hurts people.
It's because the wrestlers were saying it. No one came out and publicly said it. I remember even Jungle Boy defended him. Oh, I can't believe anyone said you ever hurt anyone in the ring. Yeah, and then you watch him and you see it happen. And then you hear about these other things that are happening in places you're not seeing anything happen.
And see,
it's his reputation there. So it turns out once again I was right.
He's not really strong enough to hurt anybody on purpose, but it's when you open yourself up and he falls on you accidentally. That's when heartaches begin. But anyway, we wish him the best in his future endeavors at the car wash in Parsippany.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
I wish you would.
Serious question on this. The Jelly Nutellas, the Marco Stunts, various other people. Apparently, Peter Avalon's now being used on a nightly deal. He's not there under contract any longer. But there are various people that from the early days of AEW were there. Obviously, you had a problem with them. Various other fans had a problem with them, but they were there. They're now slowly leaving. They're not being fired. Their contracts are expiring. And actually, the one thing that was interesting from what Jelly said was apparently AEW just stops communicating with you altogether. Yeah,
it's just that's the best part. It's like whenever you're done and they don't want to re-sign you, they're not going to say you're done, you're fired. They're not going to say leave. They're not going to say we don't want you. They're just not going to ever speak to you again, and you just drift off and wander around. It's like the rib where, hey, can you watch my bag on the sidewalk? Sure, and the guy never comes back. How long are you going to stand there? Watching the fucking bag. And then pretty soon you just wander off. So all of the initial Mud Show signees are just wandering off.
So what do you think now, looking back on the first couple of years, or especially like the first few months, the first year of Dynamite? Of course, the pandemic hit pretty quickly. But the usage of these guys, looking at then and looking where we are now, was that just padding the roster? We need people? And that's why we're getting rid of them now? Or was it Tony Khan realized that some of these signings were wrong? What do you think this really is, that these guys are just... It's the guys that you would suspect. I mean, it's everyone we talked about on the show for a while, that these guys are killing the show, and now they're all leaving.
Well, I mean, it's all of the above, number of the things you mentioned. I don't know why that a wrestling booker can't adopt the idea that he's a wrestling physician and adopt his own Hippocratic oath and first do no harm. If you needed wrestlers to fill out a roster just to put other people over, just numbers, like you said, do we just need people? Just people? Well, there were competent, quality, serious indie guys that could have just had matches for you that were halfway trained properly and could have put people over, and you might have had some of those guys break out of the pack. But instead, on the advice of his EVPs, and I'm sure some of their friends, it was a constant influx of indie darlings and guys with goofy gimmicks that 75 people in a fucking church gym laugh at, or it was cute on the internet. And, oh, he's got a following. He's got a following because his videos are viral because he wrestles while wearing a fucking bowl of fruit on his head or whatever. You got to sign this guy. And he ended up with a collection of fucking fruits and nuts, as they used to call it WWE, and Tony became Vince, the head cashew. It was a gimmicked up bunch of talent that was, in some cases, not ready now, in other cases, never will be ready for fucking television, that were the friends, the play wrestling friends of the other play wrestlers. And for all that everybody can talk about, and it was a great accomplishment to get a wrestling program back on one of the Turner networks, and it took a guy that was already doing business with him and owned professional sports teams, etc., to do it, and it ran in the same social circles. But if he could have only then gone on a real worldwide search for talent and tried to find guys that either you could feature as main event stars, and that's the bulk of your money drawn. And yeah, the Twinkle Toeses and the Hardley Boys, as well as Jericho and all the names that he started out with. But for the underneath talent, instead of just getting some guys that were serious about their business and may be able to advance and would put those top guys over, he got the Friend Brigade, where everybody that he signed to be a top guy had 4 good friends. They were an embarrassment to the wrestling business, and somewhere or another he got talked into signing them. And now he's probably embarrassed to say, well, we're letting you go because you're the shits. Well, you signed me, and I'm better now than I was 2 years ago. Yeah, but I didn't know what I was doing then. What's he going to say? A lot of these people should have never been in the wrestling business, much less on television, national television. But it's just, at least come out at some point and take charge of your shit, Tony. Call some people in and say, look, you got me for 2 years for more money than you've ever made in your life, but we got to move on, and you're not part of it. Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support, really.
Whatever, be nice to him, be mean to him, I don't care, but tell him something. You can, he's afraid of hurting somebody's feelings, that he has paid every one of these people that we've heard that their contract is expiring or being, not renewed, or they're slowly wafting off into the wilderness. The fact that they were highly paid by a national wrestling company to begin with indicates that they lucked out and they're ahead of the game. He's afraid of hurting their feelings now when nobody else would have paid them anywhere near that amount of money to do anything in the wrestling business over the last couple of years. And now he's embarrassed to say we're not going to do it anymore. The fuck?
Well, if we look at some of the roster moves, Jelly Natella's announced that he will not be, he's not open to re-signing if they actually would offer him a contract. Big Swole originally said that I think it was the same thing. We mutually decided that it would be best for both parties if I didn't re-sign.
No, you know what? You bring that up. She actually talked to Tony. Maybe he was like, after that, well, I'm not going to go through that again. We talked and made nice and everybody was happy, and then she fucking leaves 2 weeks later. She's burying me. I'm just ignoring the rest of these motherfuckers. Let them try to find me.
Well, Jim, another thing that was in the interview was he talked about backstage heat he had with Christopher Daniels, who is an agent in AEW. So we hear a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes, but again, the Big Swole situation, the Chavo situation, Jelly Natella. I believe we've now heard, it may have been from Jelly also, but also other things have gotten out. Marco Stunt has just not heard from anyone His contract's coming up, and people stopped calling him. He stopped hearing from anyone there.
You know what? I bet you that Marco Stunt is one of these little gerbils that's been caught lodged up somebody's rectum, and that's why nobody can find him.
Oh, stop it. Will you stop it? Will you stop?
And he's, every once in a while, guy walking down the street, you'll hear, let me out.
Did you know Marco Stunt's the same size as Adam Cole?
No, he's not.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But
stop it.
Let me ask you this.
Saying something ridiculous like that.
Going back to my question. AEW, you agree, needs someone in that role. I hate to use talent relations because that's a WWE term that now is universal for the wrestling business. But do they need someone for talent relations? And B,
yes.
Who's next?
Goldberg. No. First of all, I've heard Christopher Daniels is supposed to be the head of talent relations, and everybody knows Tony Khan makes all the deals. Tony Khan signs the contracts, and he probably gives then Chris paperwork to do whatever. I will say this. If Christopher Daniels doesn't like you, then you're probably a fucking asshole or a wise ass or a little smart mouth prick. And I would think that Dwarf Dong Sucker fits all those categories, and probably so does Joey. I couldn't say his fake name or his real name. Joey Janela, whatever the fuck his name is. Both those little mealy-mouthed, smart-faced pricks fit that you can probably tell what their goddamn attitude is. I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Daniels doesn't like jelly. But yes, you need some, and somebody will say, well, Jim Ross served in that position for years and years in the biggest wrestling promotion in the world. And that's probably exactly why that he wouldn't fucking do that job now to save his life if you begged him to, especially with dealing with a lot of these fucking wrestlers. He had to deal with people that Vince had signed, as well as then later on ones he signed. But when he got the job, he had to deal with Vince's roster that he had signed and all the heartaches and negotiations and blah, blah, blahs that he's enumerated, written about in his books. Remember the one time he said a wrestler got mad because his wife found out that he'd bought his girlfriend a boob job and put it on his credit card, and somehow that was the office's fault or something. Can you imagine what kind of goofy statements and pissy problems that the younger generation of wrestlers in AEW would probably present to a goddamn talent relations executive? I can only imagine. And the fans are calling me names. So, but yeah, they need somebody to do that, but they need somebody to book. They need somebody to format the television show. They need somebody to not only administrate talent relations, but also tell the talent what kind of relations they need to be having. Put their foot down about various things. None of that happens because Tony thinks he can do everything and still be everybody's friend.
Who's next?
You know what? We ought to take a look at the goddamn AEW roster. We threatened to do that one time before. After I read these emails, we have time, we might do it today, but they have kept most of the really outlawed dreck off television and or the problem children like Brian Cage for months now. But I'm already getting a fucking feeling that Danhausen is going to be something that we never get rid of. And it's never going to be explained, and it's never going to make any sense. But I don't know what undeserving individual will be the next one out the door because I don't have a list of them in front of me. I can't. Who can you think off the top of your head?
I don't know if he'll be next, but I think he'll be in the next. Well, I don't know when his contract comes up, but I don't think he's long for AEW. Colt Cabana.
I forgot Colt was there. See that the one thing about the Dork Order, nobody likes them, nobody wants to see them, and they mean nothing. But it's a great place to hide because there's so many of them. If you don't want people to notice you, but you still want to somehow look like you're earning your money by appearing, that's a great place to be. They can just kind of all hide in the numbers and you forget. He never wrestles. He never talks. He just stands around and every once in a while takes a ride on Adam Page's lawnmower, right?
He doesn't even get to do his bad comedy. He does nothing. He just stands in the background. You just see a face over shoulders.
Hey, the professionals are in charge now. The bad comedy that these guys are doing is way worse than the bad comedy that Cabana used to do. He's lost his status as the worst comedian in wrestling.
That must be painful. Not only has he lost that status, but now he appears in the Young Bucks crew skits, like the Dark Order stuff.
Did you just rename them again, the Young Butts?
I didn't say Young Butts, did I?
I think you said Young Butts.
I said Young Bucks, not Young Butts.
You know what? The problem is Tony Khan needs assistance. He needs help. He can't see the forest for the trees, Brian. He's trying to do too much. He's taking too much on himself. He needs a good booker. He needs a good talent relay. I bet he needs a good CFO. You know what a CFO is, don't you?
Chief Financial Officer.
Chief Financial Officer. And today's CFO is critical to the strategy and success of the business. And if you've got a growing company like Tony does, well, it may not be growing, but it's pulsating every now and then. But there's two kinds of CFOs. There's one who's struggling to keep up, covered up in spreadsheets and manual processes and making errors, and there's a lack of visibility into the numbers. He's just guessing about things, like Jim Crockett's old accountant that brought an end to the company. Takes weeks to close the books. Or you can have a CFO that's on top of their game, automated reports, inventory, e-commerce, HR flow, other words that people use in finances that I don't know the meaning of. It can flow right into your financial model seamlessly with insights coming with the click of a button thanks to the people at Netsuite. They are the #1 cloud financial system. If you want to invest money in clouds, ladies and gentlemen, they're #1. You give them their money, they shoot it up in the air, it sticks in the cloud, you never see it again. But it will rain down on you with success because the byproduct is you will understand your business. You'll have visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, planning, and budgeting. If you don't want to pay somebody, if you owe somebody some money and you don't want to pay them, NetSuite will help you figure out a way to screw them Sunday.
Let's not do that. Let's not incorporate the company, the sponsor, with whatever sort of
I thought that's what
embezzlement you're encouraging here.
Accountants and bookkeepers were supposed to do, figure out ways to keep the company's money and screw other people that are trying to take it.
Now, you see, you're not talking about Jim Crockett's accountant anymore. You're talking about Vince McMahon's.
Okay, but you were talking about embezzlement. So if you want to embezzle from your company, folks, and you're an accountant, if you get this NetSuite stuff, you will know exactly what's going on. The boss doesn't know what's happening. None of the other employees, just you.
No.
What?
No.
No?
No.
No? NetSuite is everything you need to grow your business all in one place. And you can automate your processes and close your books in no time. Keep those books closed. You don't want anybody looking through them after you finish giving them the NetSuite. And you'll be retiring to the island off the French Riviera with NetSuite's capabilities to just completely draw all the money out of any account and just do anything you want to with it. 93% of surveyed businesses increased their visibility and control after upgrading to NetSuite. 7% of those businesses called the federal authorities. And over 28,000 businesses already use NetSuite.
Yeah.
And then it's incredible. People are stealing money left and right.
No.
No, they're not the customers. You're stealing money from the customers. See, because you've got the NetSuite. You know what's going on. It's the other people that you're cheating.
That's not how it works.
Know what's happening.
It's not how it works.
NetSuite tells you how to make millions. Head to NetSuite. That's NETSUITE.com/JCE for a special one-of-a-kind financing offer. You're not going to believe what you hear from them. Just make sure, just bring your fucking checkbook. netsuite.com/JCE. netsuite.com/JCE for a one-of-a-kind financing offer on how you can do whatever it is that NetSuite allows you to do that I can mention here without Brian shutting me up. You're going to make a lot of money off of this. Just don't tell the authorities.